Hey everyone, thank you for joining me this Friday. One of the things that really stood out to me when I read Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is habit number two: begin with the end. All right, number two, begin with the end in mind. Right. Also, if you remember Yogi Berra, the Yankees' great catcher of the '50s and '60s, late '40s too, he described it a little bit better, or I think it's better because it kind of lays out some of the ramifications. He said, if you don't know where you're going, you're going to end up somewhere else. And those two kind of concepts really drive my thought and view on goals, and the way goals come up with it or fall within the world of learning and development. So that's what we're going to talk about today in this lunch hour. Well, lunch half hour or so. So let's kind of get into it. All right. So again, happy Friday. My name's Pat Michaels. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Great Circle Learning. One of the things about going live, it's doing this live. It's fun. It allows me to wrap my head around how I think about stuff, how I want to portray stuff, and I think it actually makes me a better facilitator. I think it makes me a better better at understanding how training works, or how I think training should work, and kind of wrapping it all up in my mind. That being said, it's also super stressful because things outside of our control can happen. I actually had lost power at about 9 o'clock this morning. We had large amount of wind. A tree fell across the power lines right outside my house, and wasn't sure I was going to have power on. I actually figured out how to at least send a message, like stream a little bit from my phone to say, hey, we're going to have to reschedule. But with 5 minutes to go, my power came back on. So it's kind of my long-winded way of saying, like, some of the stuff that I've been putting in, like some of the graphics and all that stuff, I just didn't have time because I didn't have power this morning to do it. So you're getting a little bit more organic way of me kind of talking about this. But so for me, if we kind of go back to my original question and what's on the thumbnail, what is the goal of training? Or if you add one letter and flip them around, what's the goal for training? And that's really what I want to dive into today. So, in the comments, I'd love to see, what your thought the goal of training is. And, I do want to, Diane, thank you for, from joining from Arkansas. So welcome. I think Mary, you're coming from South Jersey. And who else did I see? Cheryl, thank you for coming in, from St. Louis. So we're doing pretty good. We got some people from, basically up until to the Mississippi. Maybe one of these days will be like 1883 and we can start traveling over towards the West Coast. But, thank you for joining. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Time is your greatest resource. You don't get it back. So I would love to see, I thank you for coming in. And John, thank you for coming in from New York, actually from West Point. Thank you for your service. So that being said, let's kind of jump back into this. What's the goal of training? And so you can look, and I was doing this, like when I was kind of laying this out, I started looking, you start Googling, right? And who knows what you're going to find with Google. One, you could find me, which may be scary in its own right. But like some of the high level reasons why we may go for, the goal of training, could be employee retention, right? We're looking for better performance. We want to, provide better products or services, increase our workplace culture, our diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? All of these could be goals of why we're doing training. I kind of, to kind of bring that back a little bit, we're looking to improve, we're looking to grow, we're looking to get better at whatever we're doing. And so that, for me, that's the goal of training. I like to put this in the realm of, what are the courses we're building, the programs we're building, right? Those are what driving us towards these goals of, performance improvements, better workplace culture, all of those different things. to add on top of that, we also have different audiences. And we're going to circle back to this in a little bit, but there's the audience of the actual learner, right? Their goals are going to differ for the goals of, let's say, the facilitator or of the training department when it comes to those programs or those courses. Just like we also have the audience of the stakeholder, right? As learning and development, we're building out training for the sales department or for back of the house operations. So the stakeholder has some goals of what they're trying to achieve, as does the organization. So I really think, if you break it down, there's about 4 audiences that perform have some in goal that we're trying to do training. High level, I think that's the goal of training. We're trying to improve, right? We're trying to get better. But let's add in and flip to of and make it 4, right? Flip the F and the R. We get what's the goal for training. And so to me, this is really a perspective shift, right? We're now looking at it not from what are we trying to achieve as for training, but it's what are we trying to achieve as a training department, as trying to achieve as an organization. So it's not looking at the course, but it's really looking at what's driving us. Today we'll talk about it really from the training and development department. So this is one I've actually spent quite a bit of time thinking about recently. It's one of those ones. This is why I really like doing these live streams. One, I get to share what I know. More importantly, I get to meet all you amazing people. And I do see. I want to acknowledge, Glenda. Please, Welks, thank you for joining. But I can put out what I have. But more importantly, you can say, "Hey, Pat, you're wrong," or have you ever thought about this, or whatever you want to share. So that's the power of doing a live stream or writing down your thoughts as blogs or putting them out as LinkedIn posts or wherever. Write it down in a journal and don't share it with anybody, but write your thoughts and ideas and visions, because it will help you wrap your head around what you're trying to do or the way you look at the world. And you maybe even find things like, I never really thought about that, even though it's in your own head. But one of the things when I look at in terms of the goal for training, what's the goal for the training department? I actually look at it in terms of what are the foundational pieces? What are the core tenets that drive us as as a department? And so for me, I'm looking at it, as I've been digging into this, it was really, what are my core tenets? And it's almost like, when I was looking at this, it was like the idea of, I know what it is, like I can feel it inside me, but how do I put words to it? And if you watch my live stream last week, where I talked about words matter, and then it was pretty good, and then it kind of went off base. I strayed a little bit too far. Right, we're still learning as we go. Done is better than perfect in my world of live streaming. But words do matter. And so sometimes if we want to describe or be able to talk about something, like what we foundationally hold true as a training department, we need to actually put words to it. So I was looking at it in terms of like my core tenets. And I tell you right now, like I know I need to find better words for it, but I was trying to write down what was going on in my head, which is a scary thought. I actually would never have thought that I had ADD up until, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago. Now I'm self-diagnosed, right? I just realize that what goes on my brain, it's all over the place. So trying to put a structure, put some words to it really helps. But things, just to, and again, we're going a little less fancy today. I got my words written down. But, some of these things, these core tenets that I hold, and as I'm really, it's a small family business, really, my learning and development departments is a team of one, but there's a lot of learning and development teams that are out there, that it's a team of one or a team of 3. Your views, how you think training should happen, matters, right? If your views and your tenets don't match up with the views or tenets or foundational pieces of the organization you're working for, you're probably not going to find enjoyment there. There's going to be clashing of what you think, foundationally needs to happen. In the core, this is how you think it should be. And if they go about it a different way, it's not going to help. That clash is going to make a workplace that's not enjoyable. So, as an individual, I think it's good that you're able to, say what you feel, because then when it comes time to build your training or work within the department, your vision is, if everything aligns, it's going to work well together. But so for me, just quickly go over this, and this core tenets, as I flush this out, this is going to definitely be another live stream, because I think it's paramount to what we do. But for me, like servant leadership, right? I want to build training that's going to develop people. I want to make people, help them get better. To put it in a simpler analogy that really I can understand, I want to be Obi-Wan to your Luke Skywalker, right? I want to help guide you to where you want to be, right? So me, that's foundationally what I view in training. But then other things like, I don't ever want to start from a blank page, right? I want to make sure that I've got other material that I'm pulling from, whether it's other people's knowledge, it's other, material that we've presented before in instructor-led training, but now we're going to be doing it in virtual. Starting from a blank page is one of the worst places we can start from. So to me, that's a major piece. After that, things like I always want to build with the future in mind. Like I want to do things in the least amount of steps. So if I was going to be, let's say I need a facilitator guide right now. All right, I'm going to build that, but I'm going to build it in a way that I can later on extract out, or I can pull pieces from that to build my participant book or to build my visuals, so that I want to have basically my hands in the pie as little as possible. Right? To me, that's a core tenet. I know I got to figure out better words for this, but these goals for the training department, I need to tie these to, or I think it's paramount to tie these to what we hold, the hills that we will die on in regards to training and development. Just to go over things like the other big one for me is that when we develop training, it needs to get the participant what they need to do to do that specific item, right? The goal of the course, we're going to give them exactly what they need and nothing more. Nothing less, but get them what they need to do that, or perform that activity, learn that skill, and nothing else. But then on top of that, I also want to provide to my learners the ability to grow in the areas that they want to. So one, give them the material that they need to do their job, but then also give them access to the training for the role or what they want to do going forward. Because I think for me, that builds great workplace, a great culture to be in. So just the idea, going back to what's the goal for training, is what's the vision of our training department and how does it fit into our organization? This just popped in. So Liz popped up, hey Pat, focus is on performance outcomes, right? This is the key. I agree. And as always, Liz, you say it much better than I do. But that's the idea, is let's find the way we can go through and define how our training department can provide the information out there to our, in our organization that's driving towards the goal of, let's say, the course. And this is another funny thing, I think, talking about words matter, is we use the words goals and objectives interchangeably, right? What's our goal? What's our objective? We have business objectives. We have business goals. So how do these all kind of fit together? And I think as we would all do better if we could come up with differing terms for business goals versus training goals, business objectives versus training objectives. Right now, it's almost like it's an onion. Right? We've got business goals that the organization creates objectives for, right? And then those objectives, we're building training goals or goals to get to that objective, that business objective, and it may be training, it may be coaching, it may be systems based, but within those goals, we have objectives within there. So it's like we peel back one layer of goals and objectives, and we get to the next layer of goals and objectives. So that's what, for me, structure matters. How we lay things out matters. So it's a great transition now to kind of talk about what's the difference between a goal and objective. So my simplistic way of looking at this is to say goals are where we're trying to get to. The goal is our end zone. Our objectives are the steps we're taking to get there. And now this works if it's a business goal, and now we have business objectives. Like, so let's take a publicly traded company, right? Publicly traded company, their number one goal is to return money to shareholders. Now, how they go about this, it could be, we're going to provide XYZ service to customers, which they're going to pay for. That money then gets, pays for the cost of running the business, and anything above goes back to the shareholders, right? It can be that. It can be our goal of, actually, I've got an example, right? Let me go back to my notes. So let's say we work in a call center. In our call center, we're trying to reduce the amount of time customers are on hold. So this is going to be, and for those who've never worked in a call center, it's an interesting place. It's some of my worst work experiences ever, but also some of my best. But so let's say the goal is we want to reduce the time it takes our customers are on hold, right? So that's the goal we're trying to achieve. Probably because there was the company has had something happen, right? And actually, this actually comes from a real life example for me. I used to work in the online brokerage industry, and the company I work for was in deep trouble with the regulators, with the SEC, with FINRA, about the amount of time or how long it was taking customers to actually get in touch with people at the company. So what they did, and I called it, they went through and they hired a whole bunch of people. And I called it, their hiring process, it was the mirror test, right? They held the mirror underneath your nose, and if it fogged up, they hired you. I mean, that led to a whole bunch of other things, but the business goal was, we need to get the regulators off our back. So they went about it, and basically, which meant they needed to reduce the time at the holds time at the call center. So if that's the goal, right, there's several ways we can get into this. One would be training, right? So maybe within training, it's going to be, we can look at providing training on how to handle customer complaints, right? So the business goal, reduce time. We've got some objectives, or, they've got objectives how they're going to get it. But when it comes to training, we're going to build a course on how to handle customer complaints. So that's the goal of our training now. Now, underneath that training, we could have a series of objectives, terminal and enabling objectives to walk us through this process, right? So that could be one of our courses could be handling customer complaints. We could also look at it as maybe we need to train people on the systems that they need to use so they can get the information that the people are calling about in a quick manner. So we're providing technical training on a computer system or on a platform, right? And then we could have our objectives underneath that course. Or maybe it's we need to develop the call center reps' knowledge base themselves, right? I always said there was basically 7 basic calls you ever got at a call center. If you could handle those, you would take care of about 90% of every phone call you had. And then there was, the outliers. But we could build training off, let's say, those 7 basic phone call types, right? And we'd set up our objectives to drive towards that, right? And all of those would funnel to reduce our call time, which then funnels to get the regulators off the company's back, and now the company's happy, and it's hopefully making more money, right? So it's this structured, layered approach. But as we all know, training isn't always the answer, right? So if our goal as a organization is to reduce the time customers are on hold, we could go about it by training, but it also could be, the mirror test. We just need to bring up staffing. So that's an HR issue, right? That's hiring, right? Outside of training. Now, granted, if you hire people, you got to train them and all that's it's all interwoven, right? Nothing is really ever linear. But it could be systems based. It could be the fact that we have, we have a system that the reps go into, and they're looking to get information, but is it laid out right? Are they spending? They type in to find how to the issue that the customer has, and they can't get the information because it's laid out poorly. Like, maybe we just need to build better systems to get to our goal. Or is it coaching, right? Is it just, hey, let's listen to this call. Here's how you could have handled it better. Let me then provide you a little bit of, listen to these other calls that did it differently, and now let's try this and then circle back and do it again, right? So training is not always the answer, but it's a key cog in the wheel of the organization. So I think if we can define what that what our core tenets are, our foundational pieces, figure out how those apply to our overall organization, it's going to make it a lot easier when we come to defining our goals. How do we want to go about these? So the other portion, and I've noticed as I've been talking, there's a lot of chat going on today, which is awesome. It's just new to me, so I'm not even. Let's see what Julie has just said. We also recommend having office hours with trainer to clarify the course or help with implementing and using what was in the course. 15 to 30 minute sessions with also redirecting to the company expert if indicated. And it looks like this is part of a much larger comment line. But, one of my dreams about the Learning and Development Lunch Hour and just this whole, being able to talk with this is that, I don't know everything. I know little, right? I'm good in my areas, but I know you guys are awesome in your areas. So the more that you guys can connect and everyone can learn from each other, that's ideal, right? All right. So let's kind of, circle. I know we're almost 25 minutes into this, right? And I want to make sure, be cognizant of your time. I like to keep these to about a half hour, but I also want you to come away with something, actionable, also just not just kind of thought wise. So I have recently, and I think it's next to my bed, but I've been reading Hero on a Mission. It's a book by Donald Miller. It just came out last month, but he digs into for those Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. He digs into this idea of how do we find meaning in our lives, or how do we live a life of meaning? And he provides a structure, and it really got me thinking about how this applies to learning and development. But in this structure, he basically wants every person, basically what you should do is everyone should write your eulogy. Like, I actually turn 45 next Friday. So I'm like, hopefully I got another 40 years, maybe 50. 50 would be nice, but at the end of the day, what do I want someone to say about me? What's my legacy, right? Write that short eulogy. Maybe 3 pieces, right? Like business-wise, family-wise, community-wise, right? A sentence or 2 about those, right? So at the end of the day, this is the vision of my life, my eulogy. right? Then he had me write a 10-year vision plan. So, I'm going to be 45. Well, we'll just call it 45 right now. At 55, where am I? Write that out. Again, not long. Like, he's got you, like, if it was a movie, what's the name of your life at 10 years? What's the name of that movie? Like, what are you doing family-wise? What are you doing work-wise? What are you doing health-wise? He's laid it out. It's really nice. I cannot stress enough how much this Hero on a Mission is an amazing book. But 10-year eulogy, 10-year plan, 5-year vision. So 5 years from now, for me, age of 50, what does it look like? Again, looking at the same thing. Name of the movie, what health-wise, work-wise, community-wise, just laying out some pieces. Where are we at 1 year? Lay that out, 1 year vision. So, it took me a couple hours to do it, but I wrote my eulogy, I wrote my 10-year vision, my 5-year vision, my 1 year vision. And when I was doing this, I found it very powerful that, family, I have 5 kids. I have 5 kids, my wife, me, 5 kids. And so family is a huge part of our life. I mean, family is a huge part of most everyone's lives. But with 5 kids, like my wife and I, like some days it's like, best example, yesterday, kids went to school, kids came home from school. Then one of my daughters had after school sports. Then after that, had to go to basketball practice, which I coach. My other daughter had to go to hockey practice. My son had to go to, one of my sons had to go to scouts. My daughter at college was calling because she needed something. So like you can get sucked into just the minutia of what's happening at that moment and lose part of what's the bigger picture, right? So in that eulogy, like what does family mean to my wife and I at the end of the day, right? When the chips have to be cashed in, what does family mean for us? And so having this eulogy, having this 10-year vision, 5-year vision, 1 year vision, it allows us to kind of step ourselves to where we need to be. So after he has you write all of those things out, now on a daily basis, he said if you can do it daily, great, but definitely like 3 to 4 times a week, write your daily plan. And in the first step of your daily plan, read your eulogy, read your 10-year vision, read your 5-year vision, read your 1 year vision. Now, from that, let's lay out the choices we need to do. The idea we're going to put our time that are important for us to that 1 year plan, which is driving to our 5-year, driving to our 10-year plan, which will eventually get us to the end goal vision. Now, it's not all is set in stone. But how do we go about laying our vision for our lives, for our organization, for our all of those things, and that structure really plays a role. As I was reading this, I was sitting there and I'm like this whole structure, right? Eulogy, visions, daily plans. This is I write my facilitator guides for instructor-led. It's for virtual, right? It's I want you to be here. This is my end goal, right? Habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. Here's where I need you to be. Now from there, I'm going to step you back and I'm going to say, all right, from the course goal, I'm going to lay out my objectives, and they're going to be, we're going to be able to define this. We're going to be able to, describe this, whatever they are. But now when I'm going through, to use my terminology for structure, right? I have my course or program is made up of modules, which are my objectives, terminal objectives, going to be made up of lessons. So 10-year plan, 5-year plan, 1 year plan. And now what I'm saying, what I'm doing, what I'm showing, what I'm, the videos I'm playing, they're all driving towards each step, which is the next step needed to get to the next higher level, right? So this is when things go awry, when things go off, we can come back and say, here's where I need to get back on track. Or, to use my example from today, right? One of my goals this year was to make sure to live stream every Friday. Is it going to probably happen every Friday? No. But I had, when things went awry, like it was like, all right, here's how I'm going to handle not having power. I'm going to do a quick live stream with my phone. Didn't know how it was going to sound, but I was just going to say, hey, unfortunately I don't have power right now. I want to be cognizant of your time, but I want to give this material it's needed, so I'm going to need to reschedule. Thankfully, I was able to get power back on. This didn't go exactly the way I wanted it because I didn't have the graphics and all the things I wanted to pop up, right? Because I think that's the ADD person in me, and I want things popping and flashing. But I still did it, right? I was able to make changes based off of the situation I was in, but do that because it's driving towards that goal that I set and I wanted to achieve. So that, my friends, is really where I'm at today in regards to goals, the goal of training, the goal for training. I love all the chat that you guys had going forward in the comments today. One of the downsides of doing this individually, like trying to talk, trying to read, all of these going on, it's hard to do by yourself. But, for those who took time, your most precious thing, your time, and listen to me today, thank you. I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. Oh, before I end, next week, exciting time. We're going to have a special live stream on Wednesday. So Wednesday, I'm going to Alexander Salis of the L&D Launch, the Chief of Awesomeness. He and I are going to have a live stream where we're going to talk about the struggles in learning and development. One of the things I've learned with doing this is we get these kind of grandiose ideas. Here's what we want to talk about. And then things kind of go in different ways. But what we're going to end up doing is kind of look at the struggles that people have when it comes to building learning and building virtual and instructor-led training, or building e-learnings, right? Where do they sit individually? Where do they kind of come together? And some tips and tricks to kind of get you over that. So that'll be on Wednesday. And then on Friday, we're going to also go through and have another live stream for just the Learning and Development Lunch Hour. I think I may circle back to the core tenets. I'm just not quite sure where we're going to go on that one yet. If there's something you guys want, just let me know. We'll talk about it. And again, have a wonderful Friday. Enjoy your weekends. Hopefully you guys are taking Monday off. It is President's Day. I have my kids home all week next week. So who knows, during the live stream, you may see, kids fighting, things being thrown. But again, thank you for joining. Have a wonderful Friday, and I will see you guys all next week. Take care.